Yes, indeed. What's up, everybody? It is the CBC Wizdumb Hour, episode number 144 for June 29th, 2021. I am Steve Witchell in New Orleans.
What's up? I'm Tony B in New Jersey.
You see how I changed the intro?
I like that. Very
You
nice.
like it better? It's better now?
It's much more gooder.
Okay. Tony wanted me to change the picture of him. So
yes, of course. Gotta
Yes.
keep updating. Keep updating, Steve. We're 144 episodes in. You know, we can't have the same pictures every week.
And people are going to be like, which picture was different? You're going to have to go back and watch the intro again.
They're going to go back and they can watch the intro, and they can go back last week and look at the intro, then
Right.
watch the intro this week, and then try to compare them.
And spot the difference.
So
The first person to get it right will receive a free Cover Band Central sticker that I will mail to you postage free. So you just send me your address and I will mail you a Cover Band Central sticker if you can guess which picture is different in the intro this week as opposed to last week. Huh? You like it?
Hey, dude, your mouth is not matching your words.
What do you mean?
Like you're talking and then your mouth's going like this, but you're not saying the words of what you're saying when you're talking, so it doesn't match up. It's like a subtitle movie.
Are you saying the timing is off?
Okay, now it's back. It was off. It was like there was a delay or something going on. It's a little weird.
Right. Do I have to repeat? Should I repeat the whole thing that I said?
No, they heard you. It just looked like you were in a subtitled movie. There you go.
I got a new toy. I got actually a whole bag. I got a whole bag of these things from Amazon. And nice. I got it for one purpose. One purpose only.
To give away the gig?
No. I'll let you guess. Oh, let's play.
Stump the Drummer.
Why would I think to buy this plastic toy or a bag of them? And I'll let you hear the sound once again. I'll try to do it better though. This isn't a very good one. They make better ones than these.
Are you trying to do Running with the Devil and you need to have the whistle part in there?
That's a very good guess, but no.
Okay. Well, that's the only guess that really matters. That's the only important thing I think you would need that for.
Well, what song did I tell you that we started playing lately?
Well, it may have the band logo on it, in which case you'll give them away for free, and people will be excited to use them, and they will, quickly be thrown out of the bar when hundreds of people are blowing those things, and the bouncers are like, all right, you got to go now. Yeah. Enough of that.
What song did I tell you that we just started playing recently?
I forget, dude. There were so many. You named a lot.
No, I did not.
Oh, Car Wash.
That was one.
Doesn't have that sound in it, though.
Nope.
Bad Girl?
That was the other one. But
Doesn't have
no.
that sound in it either.
There's one more.
Don't know.
Hard song to play. I talked about, it's difficult. There's a riff in it that happens 3 times that the bass guitar and keyboards play simultaneously.
Don't know.
Stevie Wonder.
Yes, correct. I was going to say the runs, the keyboard and bass run you were saying.
In what song?
I don't remember.
Sir Duke.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
Right before the second chorus.
That's what
you hear one of these whistles.
Right.
So that's exactly why I bought this. Just for that one moment in time on stage that I can use this thing.
Kind of like when I used to bring the megaphone to gigs to do the Meatloaf, to do the middle part. The Phil Rizzuto part. I used to drum it one-handed and sing it through a megaphone.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen other people do that.
And then the megaphone would go away for, the back. You saw other drummers sing it through a megaphone and play one-handed?
No, I've seen other people use it though.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like that was the Scott Weiland thing. He would do that in Stone Temple Pilots and
Crackerman.
Crackerman and I am smelling like a rose.
Yep.
And probably a couple other things too. But Monty used to use it. Rob Monty from Dog Voices, Monty and the All Stars. Rob Monty.
Yeah, amazing how loud the megaphone is at sound check when no one's playing, and then when the band's playing, it's like you can't even hear it.
Right. That's
Unless
why
you do it,
use
unless you do it into the microphone.
use the microphone. That's
Correct.
the deal. That's how you do that.
That's the deal, Steve. That's the deal.
All right. So last week I picked a topic right off the bat, and it kind of worked out well. So I did it this week again too.
A lot of feedback last week on your topic.
So I put it in the description, so people are already starting to answer. So so we can discuss this as far as we can take it.
Okay, sounds good.
But I mean, I'm going to tell you why I want to discuss this, and see what you think about this.
Tell us the method, the means to the madness.
Well,
Steve.
I'm always ideas coming. I'm trying to do new things, and I'm doing this daily video thing Monday through Friday with a theme every day. We've talked about it before.
Yep, very commendable.
They're all on YouTube, and the link is in the description for our YouTube channel if you want to click that and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because you'll get notified.
And likes are very important. You got to like it.
Subscribe to YouTube is the subscribe thing. You don't like
correct,
it.
but you
subscribe to it.
Traffic to the video, Steve. Just get it.
But you can like the videos, yeah. You
correct.
can do that too, sure.
Yes, correct.
That would be great, in fact. I had a point. So I've been doing that too. So I'm gonna start and see how this goes. And this is gonna be like one of the first things I'm doing that's not live. I'm gonna actually record this like my idol Rick Beato does.
Okay.
And a year or so ago, I didn't really know anything about him. You turned me on to him, and a couple other people mentioned him before. And I am just a big, big fan of him. I watch a lot of his stuff. So I am going to directly rip off his idea and do a series called "What Makes This Cover Band Great."
Okay.
So I'm ripping off his "What Makes the Song Great" idea, and I'm going to do "What Makes This Cover Band Great." And so I want to talk about that. What makes for a great cover band? What is it that makes? What are the components that go all together that you would say that is a great cover band? And Spencer Morgan jumped in early, and he said it's the same thing that makes a great original band: dynamics. Dynamics is certainly one of the components.
Definitely.
So what do you, Tony B, think are some of the important components in your estimation? And take them slowly, one at a time, and elaborate on this because we have an hour to fill.
Okay. Dynamics I like, because I think if you only play at one volume, it's stale. It has no depth, no texture, right? So you definitely need dynamics. I would agree with that. That's an important element, but not the most important element.
And when we're talking about dynamics, what we mean is, for those that are new novice players, is the amount of volume essentially that you apply to your instrument. Intensity, which translates into the volume of it generally.
Correct.
And you play with different dynamics based on a number of factors. And one of them is the level that other people in the band are playing at. One of them is the location. The venue. And also the kind of that goes with that is your ability to hear yourself and the other band. So your monitor mix, whether you have in-ears or using wedges.
Correct. Because if you can't hear, your first tendency is going to be to play hard because you can't hear yourself. Play louder, which isn't always the best thing. So you got to remember, even if you can't hear yourself and you sound checked and the volume was good at a moderate intensity, you want to try to remember to maintain that. Because if you as a drummer, if you start playing louder and harder because you can't hear yourself, everyone in the band is going to turn up.
Correct. But perhaps the most important aspect of dynamics is playing the proper dynamics within the song, because the dynamics quite often will change within a song based on the musical part that is going on and what you're trying to convey musically in the song. So as a drummer, especially how much you will change in dynamics, how much I'm sure you hit the cymbal, like a crash cymbal, differently almost every time in a song based on the part of the song. Or
Absolutely.
Is that
You know,
something that you really think about as a drummer a lot, or does it just come naturally?
to me now it's always come more naturally. I think as you evolve as a player and you get more experience and you have more time on the road, so to speak, and more gigs under your belt, it starts to become a natural progression to where, over the years I've gotten thinner cymbals, not necessarily smaller in diameter, but thinner. And I'm a big fan of like a lot of the Sabian, the ozone type, crashes where they have the holes in them. So it looks like a
Right.
flying saucer, like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about that, like as opposed to using, say, like a rock crash or a heavier, full-bodied crash, is, when you hit that crash, whether you hit it light or soft, it could be one-dimensional and it's going to have a clanky sound to it. But when you're a young drummer starting out, you have a tendency to hit the cymbal, not really swipe it. As you learn to
Okay.
play the instrument, you swipe the cymbal, right? So you're not hitting it like a direct blunt blow. And the thicker the cymbal, the better chance you have a crack in it. So when you have a thin cymbal, especially one with the holes in it, when you do strike it, even if it's hard, it's going to be loud and fast. So it's going to bam, and it's going to quickly dissipate. It's not going to have a huge amount of resonance and clanging. And even if you're crashing on it, you know what I mean? It gives you a nice wash, but it doesn't have an overwhelming amount of ring and overtone to it. Cymbals have come such a long way even in the past 10 years than they have, even in the past 5 years. The technology is always changing. But to
Right.
your point, if you're playing a song like Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who, there's not a ton of dynamics in that song. You know what I mean? In general, it's pretty much out of the gate. It's full, it's
Well,
it,
you're talking
you
about
know,
Keith Moon, who didn't really practice dynamics as much as
correct. So I'm
other
saying, so
drummers. Yeah.
if I'm playing in that mindset, then yes, I'm hitting the cymbals in an aggressive manner. And, I'm not really thinking about, keeping them quiet. But if I'm playing a song, like, let's say, like when we used to play, what's a good example of a song? Like Counting Blue Cars. You know that song?
Yes. Dishwalla.
Dishwalla,
Dishwalla is the
correct.
name of the
So
band.
it's
Yeah.
it's a super dynamic song, super dynamic. So
Right.
when you're riding along in the groove, if all of a sudden you want to go, shh, like two cymbal crashes, you're not going to be like bam bam, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because of the dynamic. So you're playing quietly, so you're going to kind of just sweep over them, and just give a little color, a little texture,
Right.
So
So,
I think cymbals can be super musical, and if you go
oh
on
yeah.
YouTube and Google some drummers that are, demonstrating different nuances of cymbals, you'll see that you can be very musical, with
Yeah.
what you play in your cymbals. And I remember seeing Jerry Gaskell from King's X do a drum solo, and a minute of it was just cymbals,
Just cymbals. Yeah.
a groove with cymbals, but they were peisty, so they were like almost sound matched, but not exactly. So
Right.
he had a so as he was grooving, he'd go and he had a whole textured rhythm going with just that sibilance of the cymbals.
Right.
So to answer the long-winded answer to your question is yes, I am thinking about it when I'm playing, but I'm only thinking of it from perspective of what texture do I need to add in this part of the song. I'm not
Gotcha.
constantly thinking like, oh, I got to make sure I don't hit that cymbal too hard. You know what I mean?
Right. So yeah, dynamics, but per your instrument is also an important thing, but the overall thing. So that is a good point that Spencer brought up
And I think it's
about
not to cut you off, Steve. I think it's most important for drummers because being
it's important for every instrument.
but an unamplified instrument, if you have your bass amp set on 2, there's only a certain amount of volume you can get out of that when you're digging in. So even if your amp is on 2 and you're aggressively playing, the volume's not going to drastically change that much. But if you're a
That's correct.
drummer,
But I would never play on two. What yeah.
but I'm just making a point. Even if you're on 8, you know what I'm saying? Drums, it's like if you get in the moment and you're hitting as hard as you can, you and no one else has changed their volume, you're instantly blowing the rest of the band up. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're blowing the
Agreed.
stage volume out. So for drummers, it's super important to be dynamic and also be conscious of your volume when you're playing, because you can drown people out very easily, by just overplaying and playing too hard, especially
Right.
snare. If a drummer's wailing and cracking on that snare, through the whole gig, and it's mic'd up, and it's just you didn't get a good sound check, it can become disruptive.
Right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, dynamics are
Yep.
Huge. And Noel said, does it depend on what style of song you're playing? And yeah,
Sure.
that matters too. You know, you're going to approach rock songs different than blues songs, different than jazz songs, different than, you know, anything else. So,
Well, like we were saying, like The Who, you're going to play that, full out. You're going to play that, as hard
right,
and as loud as you can.
right. My friend Danny says, "Yo, Stevie, yo, Danny, he's out in
What's up,
Vegas."
Danny?
Okay, so that is one aspect that I really am happy that Spencer brought up, because that's not the first one I would think of. What makes a great cover band?
No, there's so many. I mean, if you want me to rattle off like my top 10
Well,
things, like,
let's.
and we'll come back to them, I would just say song selection.
Well, wait, hang on. Let's. The audience has spoken, so let's let them chime in here. Um, and this is a little bit of a long one, but Jamie said, "What makes a great cover band is the energy and the momentum that they provide to the audience. You have to know when to play a slow dance song or two, and then you know when to pick up the pace and get them hopping. You need to put a song in their head that brings back a memory for them." So that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack there, really. Energy, certainly having good energy on stage. It is really a must. And that doesn't mean you have to be like over the top, like acrobatic and moving a lot. Energy is just about how you're feeling and the vibe you're putting out to people.
And the collective energy of the whole
Right.
band as a synergy,
Right.
synergistically.
So yeah.
But I think
And
but real quick, to, like you said, unpacking what he said is just, yeah, the momentum, the energy, and putting the songs out there. I think that goes back to like reading the room. You may not necessarily stick to your
right.
set list, because if you're 2 or 3 songs down and you see that the room's not really reacting to it, you may need to, throw something else in there based on what you think will get them going. And then it might take a couple of songs before you find that nerve that ignites them. And then once, like you said, they're up and dancing, then you want to find other songs that are going to keep them up and dancing, that are going to keep them engaged, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that could fit under the umbrella of reading the room, and that is one of them. Knowing when to play the right songs at the right time, because that's a kind of a separate thing than the energy. So that's why I said there's a lot
Yes.
to pack. That's a whole different topic.
But it is a collective energy in the room, because as well as I do, the band can be high energy and having a great time. And if the room is dead and not vibing, you're played to a dead room for a couple of songs, it's a buzzkill. It's
Agreed.
way different than when the whole place is packed and up against the stage and buying you drinks and, and thoroughly enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and I have a perfect example for that for me for 2 nights ago, Sunday night. We started playing. I played Famous Store on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. We started 7 o'clock. Sunday is usually the slowest day, understandably, and it's summer right now, so it's a little slower here. It's very hot, and when we started, there was a decent amount of people in the room, and we were playing for a little while, and some more people were coming in, and I was kind of like just sitting there, just daydreaming, and everybody was pretty much just hanging out at a table or by the bar or whatever. There wasn't a lot of milling about, so I was like, I wonder how many people are actually in this room right now. And I tried to guess, and I said, look, like there's got to be at least like 50, and then I counted them. I counted every person.
Okay.
And it was, including the staff, which was a few bartenders, some barbacks, doormen. It was 48 people were standing in the room at that time.
Okay.
And then as we went on, people were starting to leave. And I was like, it got to the point where I was like, all right, this is easy to count. 11. All right. That's like, I didn't have to take too long. It got down to 2 people.
Wow.
Dwindled all the way down to 2 people were in the room. Just these 2 girls, they were sitting in the back. They were having a good time. They were singing along, dancing. And I was like, well, gee, that's easy to count now. Just those 2 people. And then Tracy, my singer, turned to me. She goes, let's do Sweet Home, which is generally a song that will bring people in off the street. Sweet Home Alabama, the song I sing. So I'm like, okay. And so we did it. And sure enough, 2 people walked in, another 3 people walked in. And then 15 minutes later, there were far too many people in that room for me to be able to count. Like there was way more than the 48 for when I counted earlier. There was no way. Now there's people moving around and stuff. So to tie that in with what you're saying about the vibe, it's like we weren't upset. We were having a good time on stage, and we're laughing about it, the fact that there's only 2 people left. So like, we'll just do this song to try to get people in, and had fun with it, and it worked. So we had a collective, really positive energy on stage, and then I think that translated out to there. And plus the timing of it was probably just after dinner time now, and people were getting out of restaurants, and they were walking around,
Sure.
and they hear, let's see, they hear a good song, like, let's check out this band. And that's basically the way it works there on Bourbon Street. But so
yeah, that's an anomaly too, right? Because that whole scene down there, like you said, it's a constantly rotating, revolving crowd. So you
Right.
can go from 100 to 5 people, in the course of an hour.
just like that. I mean, less than an hour.
Out, right? It's crazy because I played Saturday night right after it rained, super humid, like death hot out, on Lake Apacon, on the water, no breeze, dead still air. But packed place. The crowd was packed. People were into it. They were all sweaty, didn't care. And it's funny because I forgot, of all things, what do you think is one of the worst things a drummer could forget to bring to a gig?
A throne.
Ding, ding, ding. There you go. So So I get there, I realized, and I've never done that. So all of a sudden, I forget my throne because I took it out of my bag and I was using it for something else. I forgot to put it back in. So long story short, I have to makeshift a plastic, chair with my stuff piled on top of it with a moving blanket folded up, and I made it work. So about a quarter of the way into the second set, I noticed this guy off to my left, and he's standing pretty close by, and he's totally engaged, and he's watching the band, and he's watching me more than anybody. And I'm thinking, this guy's got to be a drummer, just because he looks like a drummer.
Right.
We finished the song. He comes running up. He's like, buddy, I'm a drummer. I live next door. I have a rock and sock hydraulic throne. You want me to go grab it real quick? I'll be right back with it. I'm like, yeah, great. Dude ran home, came back 5 minutes later, brought a throne.
That's great. He should have known, like, while you were playing, to just go grab it and be, like,
well, maybe I was comfortable. I was
you.
almost tempted to tell him, like, no, because I'm good now. Like, I figured it out. I've played 30 songs already on this lawn chair. But nonetheless, and the guy brought it down. It was great, But what's the chances of that? The guy living next door and having the throne.
It's fantastic.
And it
all
was
right,
great.
so I do have to get to. There's a lot of comments here.
But but we broke all the rules, Steve, because the guy said casual. It's 95 degrees out. It's humid. You probably don't want to wear jeans and like black shirts and like regular band gig guitar. You should probably wear tank tops and shorts. And if you have them, like bare feet or sandals. And that was pretty much the vibe of the place. People were, it's a dinner place, but it was very casual.
Right on. Very good. All right. So Brian said having a planned set list is a component that makes a great cover band. He's seen bands that stop playing almost after every song and decide what to play next. The crowd gets bored. I would agree with that in most cases.
Dead air is definitely an enemy.
Yeah, it is. I'm in this circumstance which I haven't experienced a lot before, but the club I'm in, we can get away with it. Not really dead air, but stopping and starting. We rarely go song to song in this band, in this club, because we can. Because it's like, the way the room is set up, you're very engaged with the audience. And Tracy, our singer, is excellent at engaging with the audience and getting people involved. And people that come in there in that room generally stay. They just stay. And there's still, even between songs, Tracy's saying something on the mic, I'm saying something on the mic. My guitar player might be playing a little interlude. He plays like, if there's nothing going on, he'll always start playing like a little like Beatles instrumental interlude.
Uh-huh.
So we always keep something going on stage. But I would say in most cases, 95% of the cases, Brian, you should have a planned set list. You should go in knowing what you're doing, look confident on stage, and not look, like you said, look at each other like, all right, what are we doing next? Nobody wants to see that from the crowd.
No, definitely not.
It makes you look amateur-ish.
Yep.
So that's an excellent point, Brian. That's an excellent component. We could probably list like 50 components of this, which is good for my web series that I'm going to do.
There you go.
YouTube series. This is debatable, but Shane says for us, it works to do songs every band around here doesn't do. For example, AC/DC, most people play Shook Me All Night Long. They do Shot Down in Flames and Long Way to the Top. He wrote Shit Down in Flames, but he meant Shot Down in Flames.
Yes. But you know what? I would agree with that only because after playing in Weisenheimer's and playing all the usual songs that every band plays, right? Playing them well though, and having a couple of eclectic mixes in there, like Paradise by a Dashboard Light or Last Dance, or songs that are a little out of the norm. Then shifting to the new band OC5, where they play, like we've discussed many times, a very vast, obscure set list of hits, great songs, but I've never heard a band play them, ever.
Right.
And that's the one comment I can say now. I've played probably 6 or 7 gigs with these guys, and every single gig, people always come up and say, "Hey, you guys sound great. Really enjoyed you guys." Which excellent compliments. But every gig, at least 5 people say, "Can't believe you played Junior's Farm by Paul McCartney and Wings. Can't believe you played this song. Can't believe you played Bye Bye Love by the Cars. Can't believe you played New Sensation. Can't believe you played this, that. They say that they stayed. The reason they stayed was because they couldn't believe the songs we were playing. They've never heard bands play those songs before, and they're great songs, but they're just not your usual cover band mainstream, repertoire."
Right. And that is definitely a contributing factor to making a great cover band, playing songs that nobody else plays and doing them well. However, you could still have great cover bands that do play the same songs that everybody plays, but they do them well and they're appropriate for the gig.
Absolutely.
Which is my case, where we play some songs that everybody would groan at.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes groan at. Anybody calls Brown Eyed Girl, I groan. But we play it. But I do groan.
And like I said, these guys have been playing these songs for years. It's exciting for me because I've never played them before.
Right.
So it's exciting because I'm getting comfortable with them. You know how it is. You learn 70 songs. You got to play like 10 gigs worth of songs to really lock them in. At least for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To have them where like I'm comfortable and I don't need to even think about it anymore, and I can be creative.
Right. And if they're great songs, who cares how many times you play them? It's always fun to play a great song.
Absolutely.
There's some. So I was just thinking about it the other night, and I've said this to you before, definitely, probably earlier shows, but we were playing "Don't Stop Believin'" one of these nights this past week, and I was just thinking, man, I still love playing this song. I love playing it. It's fun to play on bass. It's fun to sing the harmonies to it, and it's fun watching the crowd go apeshit.
As long as the drummer knows the groove and plays it correctly,
right?
And not many do.
Yeah, well, many do here that
That's
I've played with. But it's Steve Smith. There's a tutorial on that, isn't there, on YouTube?
Yeah, you can go on YouTube and he shows you exactly how he plays it. Yeah.
Noel said it's a good talk.
Yeah.
There's some of these comments I can't show, guys, because they're so long and they would just cover up our entire faces.
So can you just synopsis? Put a quick.
I'm trying to talk and listen to you and read at the same time, and there's so much to read. It's like hard to.
Let's go.
All right,
Jimmy.
All right, so I'll just read.
Help Steve out with the comments.
Jimmy, he can stay on break. I don't know if I want to read this. I'm trying to skim through it. Okay. All right, this is a good one, Mark. Cote. We have a pretty good light show as well as have a good set list. I believe that if the band is just okay, at least got to put on a good show, make them remember you. Good lighting. Good lighting. That is a simple component that will contribute to your success, especially if you're videotaping stuff and people are watching it back on YouTube. You want it to look good. You want it to look presentable. Yeah. You want to be able to see everybody.
Well, because shooting video in a dark
club, of lighting,
if you don't have really good lighting, right? It looks dim and dingy, and it might sound great, but you can barely make out the people on the stage. It's not that sometimes stage lighting is kind of shitty. So, like you said, you want to have some bright lights and some other accent lights where you can really light up the stage.
I'm the only one that I know in New Orleans that does this, but I get anal about the stage lights at where we play.
Yeah, you have to.
But nobody else notices. Nobody else even cares. Well, they care when they see it look better.
Well, do you have a light? Do you have a lighting guy?
What are you kidding me?
So
you barely have a sound guy.
So you just put the lights on, like, the chaser setting to where they're moving around as you're playing and they're changing colors, or
Ideally, that's the
right?
way it should be. But whoever there's DJs that go, they're in the booth, same booth, the sound booth. It's this very small. It's hard to get into. You have to crawl underneath this little door and like wrench your back up this way. It's a little area, but there's the lighting controls in there too. So I had somebody show me a few weeks ago how to change the lights, because we would go in there and it's just everything. And there's a lot of lights. There's a good lighting on the stage. It's from the back and from the front and everything, but they were all red, just like
Yes,
like
right.
blood red. And
Yeah,
every single one was red, and it wasn't changing. And we're playing. I'm just like, this is no good. It
no,
can't just
no
be
bueno.
red. So ideally, you put the chaser on. Yeah, so they're changing colors and they're
Right.
moving sort of almost with the beat. And yeah, it really affects my playing too. If, like I'll start to overthink it. Like, why is everything purple? It's just purple.
Well, we used
What
to have a
happened?
foot pedal where Kel could adjust the colors of the lights, like override the chaser feature.
There you go.
So if we would do blue cars, when Jimmy would start it, he would quickly switch everything to blue, make the whole stage blue.
See, that's clever.
And then we had a cool at the end of the song. If it was a big finale ending and boom, he would have a blackout button where he could step on it and black out the whole stage. And then
I've
next
seen
song,
those.
the lights come back on again. Simple stuff. It's an easy pedal. It's like a $10 thing. But used effectively, it makes a huge impact.
Yeah, it's a good point. Because that's if you had a real light person in a light show, that's the things. Those are the things they would be
You go
doing.
see a professional band, that's what happens, right? Lights are on, lights are off. It's not just lights on all the time,
Right. Yeah, especially like the arena shows where
Yeah.
it's massive production.
And again, that's a sense of dynamics too. It's a visual dynamic, not just
Good point.
an audio dynamic,
That is an excellent point. Visual dynamics.
Yeah. It is, because it's the same thing, right? It's texture, it's experience, right? If, like I said, if you go and you see a band and they're talking about songs in between every song, and they're stopping and they have one light and it's on all the time, and they're playing at the same volume, you know what I mean? It's gonna get old quickly. But if you're engaged with the band and they're dynamic and they have volume and they have highs and lows and the lights are here and there, and it's more, like I said, visual. People get attracted to that visual aspect of it too, and they're going to be more engaged sonically because of it.
Agreed. Sorry, now I'm trying to read more comments. Walter's in Guatemala, says greetings. Welcome, Walter.
Hold on, Walter.
I mean, this conversation, Gregor, we're not going to get deep into this. We've had this conversation before, but do you do them like the records, or you do your own take on them? I don't think that is a conversation to have. And you can go back to previous Wizdumb Hours and hear us talk about it ad nauseum. But I don't think that is necessarily a thing you consider as far as a cover band being great, unless you sit and say, "Oh man, they did this incredible take on Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, way different." Then yeah, that's a contributing factor. But you could also say, "Wow, they did it just like the record. It sounded amazing."
Correct. And we've had the debate between cover and tribute band, right? Like tribute band, even those bands, when they play live, they stretch the originals too. They stretch their own songs, right? When you hear a live version, it may be slightly different than the record.
Right. You'll be proud of Scott Tony. He says, as a drummer, he prides himself in playing "Don't Stop Believin'" as close to the original. He always gets a kick out of guys who don't even come close. You can watch Steve Smith show you how to do it.
At least make an effort, dude. I couldn't agree more with
that.
Effort.
Yeah.
Because I can totally appreciate that, because when we used to play that in Weisenheimer's, I had many drummer guys come up to me and say, "Dude, loved that. I really enjoyed the fact that you played it right." Like they would notice it. But
yes.
that is funny though. I've seen guys play it straight. No toms, no, off, offbeat cymbal bells, nothing.
I doubt it. Anybody noticed? You know what? I doubt anybody would notice, unless you're a musician.
I know, but when you play it correctly, though, you're playing open. You got your hi-hat. You're playing with your left hand, and your right hand is playing on the snare, so you can move it to the toms. You're not playing crossed over, in other words. You know what I mean? You're playing open. That's how Steve plays it too. So that's
Right.
something you don't see a lot of guys do also. You know what I mean? They'll play it
Agreed.
correctly, but they'll play it crossed over hands and they'll be reaching out as opposed to playing open and having the versatility.
Right. All right. So Walter says a good cover band should have a differentiating factor like a great singer, good show, star player, also known as a well-known musician, a singer that has great interaction with the crowd. Yeah, Walter looks a little young there. Tell me how old you are, Walter.
But that definitely helps. I mean, he's correct on all those fronts. You know, if you have, you know, a superstar guitar player, you know, an Eddie Van Halen type guy, or you have a great drummer, you have a great singer, you know, that will definitely set the band apart.
Sure.
As
sure,
long as
sure.
everyone else is not too far behind, you know what I mean? You can't have a superstar singer and the band's like a B plus, you know?
Correct. Oh, Walter says he's 43 and he's laughing. Doesn't he look if that's his picture, doesn't he look very young?
It could be one of his relatives. It could be one of his family members. It may not be him.
Maybe not be him.
But he may look. He looks real good for 43, though.
You know what? 43.
Him, you know?
You're still young, my friend.
I got to move to Guatemala and get some of that food and sun. Culture.
Is that where it was from? Yep, Guatemala. That's right. Good
Oh,
memory.
Yeah.
All right. So
what else you got there,
so
Steve?
Pete said his emphasis of these days is on putting on great theatrics, dancing, and in between song banter. Great musicianship only gets so far in the club environment. People want more than just great music, and that is absolutely true. If you are playing in a band on stage and getting paid for it, you are in the entertainment business, and you are meant to entertain. And there are many ways to entertain when on stage. And like he said, theatrics, look like you're having fun, dance to the song, talk to the crowd in between, involve them.
You know, it's interesting. We talked about the Kiss documentary a little bit before we went
on a
right?
show. Right.
So right now, I forget what it's on, but Kiss they're doing it's called Kisstory, right? It's a 2-part special on Kiss, and it's all about history of Kiss. But in a nutshell, basically what Gene Simmons said was they were in a band, him and Paul Stanley, and they got a record deal, and they cut the album. And when they were all done with the record, he said it was like a mediocre band, and they weren't really into it. So they told the rest of the band they were fired. And then the band said, well, you can't fire us because we have a record deal and we're signed to the label. So they said, okay, well, then we're going to quit. So they quit the band. Then they formed Kiss. And he said they auditioned a bunch of guys and they got the best of the best. And they ended up with Ace and Peter Criss and him and Paul. And he said they went out and they were playing and they were great. But he said they were blowing all these bands away, but they had no differentiating factor, you know? So they decided the New York Dolls was a big band at the time, and they were kind of like dressed in drag. They were real, you know, pretty boys, and it was before hair bands. You know, this is like mid 70s.
David Johansen.
So they went the other way. So Kiss said they tried to do that, but they were, you know, Gene Simmons is big, 6'4", 6'6" guy, 225 pounds, nothing really sexy or feminine looking about him. You know what I mean? So they went to the makeup store and bought clown makeup, and they went back and said, "You put on your face whatever persona you want to be." And that's how they came up with it. And then they all then came out, and he said they wore the makeup all the time when they were out in public, when they weren't playing, if they were in the mall, if they were in a bar, every gig they had the makeup on, the theatrics, the clothes, and everyone started remembering them for that. And that's how they made their first impact. Then, you know, they said once they started getting bigger, they were on tour, and he said that they were outshining the headlining bands, and they kept getting kicked off of tours because the headliners were saying, like, we don't want Kiss opening for us because they're stealing the show. Like, we can't, it's hard to follow them. So then once they started, you know, really making money, then they had the 15-foot drum riser that came out of the stage, you know, and picked up with the flames shooting out, and Gene was shooting, you know, spitting the fire, and he went to fire breathing school to learn how to do it and set his hair on fire the first couple of times, but it was all part of the show, and, you know, spitting the blood, and it was the whole act, you know. And when they reached their peak, that was, you know, part of that whole persona, and Kiss became a worldwide phenomenon, you know, because of that. And then they said they started going to shows and seeing 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids dressed up in Kiss makeup with their parents at the concerts, you know. Then they started with the lunchboxes and the thermoses, you know, and the marketing, and they were making millions and millions of dollars.
Merchandising, marketing geniuses.
Big
They
time.
were.
But they kept evolving themselves because he said every time they would start to fade out, like, then they had turmoil in the band. And I don't want to give it away for everybody, but, they had to keep evolving to the point where then they unmasked themselves to
I
try and
remember.
get a new, fervor behind them of saying, like, okay, like it's the old shtick with the makeup is old now. And plus, once Ace and Peter left and they replaced them with, I think it was
Vinnie Vincent
Vinnie Vincent
and
and
Eric Carr.
Eric Carr. He said the band was kick ass, but they didn't have Vinnie Vincent had his own makeup and Eric Carr wasn't the Cat Peter Criss anymore.
Right.
So people didn't identify with the band because it wasn't the same guys.
Right.
And that's when they had to change it up and take all the makeup off as a marketing ploy to say, hey, listen, we're not selling albums. People have lost interest. They're on to other things now. We missed the boat. It's hair band time now. We're
Right.
into the 80s and, early
Yeah.
90s, and they needed to reinvent themselves. But they constantly did, which was pretty cool to see their evolution of how they did it. But that was their original shtick. Gene said, and Paul said, we have to do something so outrageous that it sets us apart because we're a great band musically, but to that gentleman's point, you need to put on a show.
Right. Yeah.
And once they did that, they became superstars.
Yeah, I'm going to check out the Kiss documentary. I haven't had a chance to see it, but
Yeah, it's pretty
I
cool.
will definitely check it out. I was a big fan of Kiss. Yeah, Pat says, I mean, this is a no-brainer. All you have to be is fun, and if you have fun, it will translate. And that is part of something that makes a great band. If I see a band and if I go out to a club and I see a band and they're all having fun, I'm going to say they're a great band. And I'll say, but yeah, okay, the guitar player didn't really play it solo, right? And
well, like we said,
maybe the singer was a little flat, and maybe they didn't really hit all the harmonies, but then they were fun. So yeah, that's
look at back in the day, Dog Voices, right? They weren't
right.
the tightest band on the circuit, but they were definitely the biggest band. It was
Yeah,
party.
they were great players, though. They were all great musicians.
But it was party time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The people went not to go because they wanted to see the guitar solo.
Right. Steve said entertaining first. Too many bands are way too serious, and I agree. People are out having fun. They're drinking. They're out with their friends. Out on a date. Whatever it is,
they don't want to see the lead singer with a puss on. Like not like looking like he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Pete. I'll give him his little soapbox here, but he said it irks him how many club cover shows are boring to watch. You can tell them they're just going through the motions. No wonder people hire DJs.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons, sure. I mean, there's many reasons.
Pete hasn't seen a good band, obviously, in a while.
Well, no, I'm sure he has. But there's many people that hire DJs for different reasons. So, it's not, we don't want to slam on DJs because they have their own thing. Yeah, and Steve also said live music is at a crossroads. It's our responsibility to keep it alive. Don't kill it trying to be uber precise. Just be fun and joyful. And yes, I agree. It's our responsibility to keep going. That's part of my mission with Cover Band Central.
Yeah, but fun factor is definitely important. Like, you got to get the crowd engaged, and if you're having fun and laughing and having a great time, and you're not too serious, you know what I mean? Then the people are gonna take it that way too.
Agreed.
Big time.
And Walter mentions band chemistry is important. If players are good enough, the band as a whole sounds better if they're having a good time. And the excellent players that hate each other. And we have both been in those situations where we're in a band where somebody doesn't like the other person. I know you and I have both have been in that situation.
Yeah, or they're too serious, and it comes across to the crowd where, I mean, listen, I noticed it playing with these guys. This band I'm in now, these guys are all laid back. They're super cool. It's chill. They all interact with the crowd. It's not serious. You know what I mean? And the people react to that, There's banter, crowds talking to you in between songs. People are coming up, requesting songs. People are jumping up and dancing. They want to get on the mic and sing along a little bit, which, is a touchy thing sometimes, but it's just a different vibe. So when you like you said, the energy that the band puts off definitely gets absorbed, assimilated by the crowd, and then reflected back to you,
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're having a great time and you're loose and you're partying, but the band sounds good too. I mean, I think first and foremost, the band, you got to have fun, but the band has to be tight and sound good. If the sound is crappy and the band's not tight, I don't care what you do, it's not going to be good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So
you need a foundation to build on.
Yeah, so I mean, you could simply say for what makes a cover band, a cover band great is good musicianship and overall, being tight with each other.
Yeah, and
Um,
not hating people in the band, and then you can build a tremendous entity from that.
yeah,
It's a great
but
starting point.
I'm going to do this video series, and I'm trying to look at it as a point of view of if I'm watching a video. So I would like people out there in the Cover Band Central audience, if you want me to feature your band and you think your band is great and you think that you have a lot of these components that we've been discussing, send me a video, send me a link to videos, your website, your Facebook page, and I'll check it out. Send it to steve@coverbandcentral.com. Make sure you include links as much as you can and as much information as you can. And if if you fall under this umbrella with all these components, then I will feature you in my video series that I'm going to do that I'm ripping off from Rick Beato. So
Well, you shouldn't really say that you're ripping it off from him, because you're
I'm
not.
inspired
You're
by.
inspired by and fueled by, your passion is fueled by the inspiration that he's given you from what he's done with it, and now you're gonna take that inspiration and go in a little bit different direction with it, but feature something else that's great.
Right. And what makes this cover band great? And these are all very good points that everybody's put up. Okay.
Anybody mention attire at all in your comments?
Nobody has, but
Okay.
Adam is talking to the right people when he says drum and bass solid is a must,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you got drum and bass right here in front of you. And
Yeah.
we know that we are the backbone of all
We've
of it.
experienced the
We know.
solidity. Dude, there was a point in time when you and I used to play, and I remember even the gigs at the Loft where we were super tight and knew what we were doing without thinking about it.
Oh
We
yeah,
just,
for
we
sure.
just go places, and it was great. As a matter of fact, chemistry was a good one the guy hit on before, because it's very rare to find. And that was one thing that struck me, like when you and I first played together, that the first gig when you subbed, right? It was like 2 songs in, you and I were both like, wow, this is like comfortable and easy.
Yeah,
Like
it was
like,
OL, right?
yeah,
Oh
or yeah, Orange Lantern. But we clicked, you know what I mean? And then by the second set, we were already locked and having a great gig, And that was the
yeah,
thing that Gene said in that Kiss documentary. He said when Peter and Ace left, it just wasn't the same band anymore. Not that Eric Carr and Vinnie Vincent weren't just as talented musicians, and they were solid and they were great and they were good guys and good players and they were good dudes to be around. But he just said the chemistry, the personality that comes through your instrument when you play, it's going to be different when you put a different drummer in the seat. It's going to be different when you put a different guitar player, different bass player. The band's going to change.
yeah,
It can't help.
absolutely.
It can't help but not to.
Can't help. You change one component to a recipe, and it
Right.
changes the entire dish. So,
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I experience that all the time here because I play with so many different people.
So one thing I would say too is if you have a band and appreciate the people in the band with you, don't take them for granted, just because the band's great, but you want to have camaraderie and you want to appreciate the people you play with, because there's nothing worse than not being appreciated for what you do. And that's the certain demise. And then people become disinterested because, if you're pouring your heart and soul into it, Steve, and you're doing a great job, and I really don't acknowledge it and just be like, well, of course you are. You're expected to do that. That's what I pay you for, Like, how long are you going to want to stay in that band?
I know. I've
You know
been
what
in
I
that
mean?
situation too.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just like, okay, take it easy, dude. Don't need that.
Right. Yeah. Gotta have fun.
So yeah,
Music is fun. Should be
yeah,
fun.
definitely fun. But be grateful for that what you have,
All right. So Steve, different Steve, Cavlin says if he sees a band and they're really good, he couldn't care less about if they interact with the crowd. And agreed. It depends
Hey,
on the
listen,
venue.
they're delivering the goods too, right? That's the number one thing we just said. They got to be solid and play the songs. Everything else beyond that is theatrics and entertainment, but the band has to be good.
And it depends on the venue and the event and what it is and what's going on in the room and the vibe of the room. If there's dead air in between songs and it makes everything else uncomfortable, you can feel that in the room. You can feel it from the stage. You can feel it if you're in the crowd.
Yep.
But if they're not interacting and there's no discomfort, everybody in the room is just having a blast with each other and just by being there, then yeah, no, it doesn't matter. You know, it's all about the vibe of the room, and you
But
dictate the vibe. By the way, as the band, and I've made the statement before. You're in the entertainment business, but as the band in a club, you are the movie screen of the theater. You are the one that is conducting the show. You are creating the vibe. It is your responsibility. So if you're having a great time, you've got a great vibe on stage, then that will translate out there and they will have that too. They can't not. That's the way
and,
it works.
and I've noticed too, Steve, now post COVID, getting back out and playing, that every gig we've played is like a concert. It's like captive audience
Oh yeah.
applauding after every song. You know what I mean? Like all eyes on the band. Like people are super engaged for this live, to get back out and see live music again. So it's a great time to be in a band. Super exciting,
And it really is. I feel it too. I feel it here.
Yep.
Same thing, even though it's not as busy. But then I talked about the Sunday thing when I played, and there was only 2 people, and then eventually it got packed or got busier, and then we went on break, and we came back, and it was packed, and it was packed for the rest of the night.
Right.
And it makes it go by so much quicker. We have so much fun playing. I mean, I'm very fortunate to play with some really, really good musicians, and it's such a treat because I can be at my best when I'm playing with people who are really good.
Sure.
I'm very comfortable in that situation. I really feel honored and blessed to be able to do what I do week after week, especially where I do it and with the people I do it. With.
And it gives you
With the people I
confidence
do it with.
knowing that the band has your back, so to speak. You know what I mean? That you
Oh,
can do what
shit.
you got to do, and you can stretch a little bit if you have to, and no one's going to really, be phased by it, right? So that's going to still be solid, right? So
Yeah,
that's
confidence,
important,
support.
Yeah.
We all support each other, and have a mutual respect. That is even. It's just the unspoken respect is there, but it is spoken as well. So it's yeah, I'm having a blast, and I'm really really looking forward to when the season picks up for here, which is in the fall when it's football season.
Yep.
And last year, of course, COVID, people weren't coming to town for the games because people couldn't go to the games.
Mhm.
So, and we weren't playing at all. So I feel like this year, like you said, it's going to be just like everything is a concert, everything is a
Yeah.
party, everything is an event. I'm really super psyched for this fall, but I'm super psyched now too. It's just very hot here.
Yeah, it is very hot. It was
It's very
100
hot up
today.
in Jersey
It was
too. Yeah,
100. It was 100 here today.
it's not even 100 here today. It was like 90 maybe.
Yeah, it was hot.
It's weird, right? We're closer to the equator.
And it's gonna be 70s at the end of the week. So go figure.
There you go.
Kooky summer.
Yes. All right. All right. So Richard just says this is way too long to put up, but he said that having fun is a factor, but it's important to interact with the audience, make them feel that like they're part of the show, and of course you have to be tight. And yeah, we talked about that already, but interacting with the audience is super important. And it depends on the kind of gig you're playing too, and the venue, with regard to how much you're going to interact with them. Like we're in our situation, we have if it's anybody's birthday, Tracy, my singer, brings them up on stage. She has her little spiel that she does with each person, and it's always funny. It's always fun. And then she says, at the count of 3, everybody say happy birthday. And she goes 1, 2, 3, and my drummer will click off 4, and we play "Birthday" by Beatles. But we only play, up to the first chorus, and then we stop.
Yep.
And then quite often, and that this happened this weekend, that somebody else in the room will be, hey, it's my birthday too, and she'll look, get him up here, and then we go through the same spiel, and we play "Birthday" again, but we play it faster each time. So each time a birthday comes up, and then by the 5th or 6th time, we're I mean, and we really do it, and it's
so
funny.
you want to. So if it's your birthday, you want to announce it early so that you get
you want to get the long
version and most time on stage, not the 15-second. Okay, you're the 10th person up here now. You got to go.
Some people. There was a girl that Tracy brought up the other day that she didn't want to even be up there. She's like,
Some people don't want to be on stage, Steve.
Yeah, not everybody wants to be a star.
That's right. But I think every band, that's a strong point to have a good front person, and some bands will have a natural extroverted front person, right? That is easily interacts with the crowd great, and other bands, that front person has to work at that. Maybe they're not as comfortable, they're a great singer, a great guitar player, but they're shy, they don't have comfortability, with the crowd, so to speak. And I remember seeing Foo
Yes.
Fighters for the first time 10 years ago, and Dave Grohl came out, and it was at, Brendan Byrne Arena. So was that hold 22,000, something like that. And he came out on the catwalk, and I mean, he owned that place, and he was interacting with the crowd with 22,000 people, like he was at a bar gig with 15 people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Super chill, relaxed, getting people pumped up, and having conversations in between songs with the whole place. And just it was, he walked out by himself for the first 5 minutes and did a whole spiel. How they've been playing for 50 at that time, 15 years, and get prepared for a 4-hour show, and they don't care if they go over, they'll pay the fine. We're going to blow this place up tonight. Before they've even played a note, the place is completely charged. The place is like ready to explode. So I will say he's probably one of the best frontmen I've seen in a long time, as far as engaging and interacting with the crowd and owning the room. He owned that stadium like it was, like I said, it was like a person's living room.
Yeah, you can tell Dave Grohl is just super comfortable in his own skin. He
Yeah.
he is who he is, and he is proud of it. And he has been in this industry since he was a kid, and he played in one of the biggest bands ever in the history of rock music when he was very young. And he's come a lot further, obviously, in Foo Fighters. But
Well, he took the ball and ran with it for sure,
yeah, he's one I want to interview. Dave, I want to get Dave. I want to talk to Dave.
Let me know when you get him.
I will. I'll have him on Wizdumb Hour. Anybody know his number out there? Let me know. His email. His email. Send me his email.
Get him on speed dial quick.
I got to talk to Dave.
Yeah.
So today I did this webinar thing with Bandzoogle, and it was really, really cool. It's this guy, Dave. His name's Dave Cool. That's his actual name.
Dave Cool.
Dave Cool.
Was he cool?
Yeah, he was very cool. From
cool,
Bandzoogle. Bandzoogle is one of the best websites out there. It's the industry leader as far as making websites for musicians and bands and musicians.
That's right. We were gonna talk about that, and we're gonna run out of time. So you got to bring that back up next week, because I want to talk about websites, because I'm gonna be getting mine going soon too. So I need to understand.
I was just about to wrap it. So it's
Wait,
I was
but
doing
what
a commercial, Tony. You can't interrupt.
hang on.
the
But what I
commercial.
wanted to say was, and you can go back to your commercial, was, dude, think about that though. That means when people walk up to him, they say, "Hey man, what's your name?" He goes, "Cool, Dave Cool."
I think he's humble about it. I don't think he acts like that. That's the impression I got.
But he could if he wanted to.
I did a webinar this afternoon. It's on the YouTube channel. Please go watch it and check it out. He and Bandzoogle are offering Cover Band Central members a special discount, 30 days free trial, and 15% off your first year. And the prices are super, super duper affordable. And there's nobody better out there. They're the industry leader in websites for musicians. You need a website. If you don't have one already, you need one. And if you have one and it sucks, then you need to sign up on Bandzoogle. I swear, I wouldn't pitch this to you guys if I didn't really believe in it, if I didn't really mean it. This is the real deal. So check out that webinar from earlier. It's on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, please, and just click on the link in the description, and then you'll see the interview with Dave Cool.
And it's Bandzoogle with a Z, right?
Bandzoogle, yes.
Cool.
We had a great time talking this afternoon, and he gave a lot of really good pointers to musicians for designing websites and the stuff you need. And Bandzoogle sets it all up for you, easy peasy, drag and drop, click and point and click, and you get it done.
Drag and drop.
Yeah, drag and drop and lock and pop.
Point and click,
and do all those things. Robert said, "Great show, guys. Thanks, Robert, for watching. I love Robert. He's a good friend,
Awesome.
Bass player, excellent bass player in New Orleans. Plays with Rockbox at Fat Cats on Friday and Saturday." All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in for this number 144. We will be back next week for 145.
And go out and make your band great.
Make your band great. Down. Watch out for my new series.
Right.
Make sure you check out the daily videos I do Monday through Friday on the Cover Band Central channel. All of them, they are all archived on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that, and we will see you next week.